Welcome to What the Theory with Joel. I'm Joel and
Alan, and I'm a man.
Is that the voice you're going with?
I'm feeling safe now.
We're safe. All right. And to my left, we have an esteemed guest. I want to see if I can pronounce your name correctly. Is it Lorentzen?
That's correct.
We're
starting good. We're starting
the
good.
Z was getting me off. Yeah. But I would like you to introduce yourself to our audience and tell us what you do, what you're interested in, and the last thing that made you laugh.
Oh, okay. I laughed 5 seconds ago when we were joking together here.
Hey! I'm so serious.
So that's done.
Okay.
Cross out.
That's done.
My name is Jorgen Lorentzen,
yes.
And I'm from Norway, living in Oslo. I'm actually a professor of gender studies. I've been teaching gender almost all around the world, teaching at the University of Oslo. I quit university some years ago to work with my own stuff, which means writing, doing international work, and making documentary films.
Documentaries, yeah. Okay. So I was interested because I have a few friends who are in academia, and quite a number of them are getting frustrated. I don't know if you're comfortable mentioning why you decided to shift, and also in your
because I was frustrated.
Surprise, surprise.
Thank you.
So part of what we're trying to do on this channel is...
you're writing an article.
Yeah.
You work with one article for 3 years to get it published into the right journals. And then it's back and forth to edit it and work on it. And then you finish it and you send it off. And then 20 people read it because it's in a very marginal but very high quality journal.
Yeah.
And then you sit down behind your desk again and you start a new journal, a new article. That's the thing. After a while, it's getting boring because I want to get out there, work with people, being with people, doing stuff in the society, not sitting behind a desk all the time.
Yeah, because so what drove you into getting into gender studies? What was it that made you? Is it something that you fell into, or you had a passion that led you towards it?
It was a very very interesting event that did it, because Norway is basically a feminist country. We are all sort of born feminists in Norway because it's a gender equal society where men and women have the same chances, the same opportunities. They are very much.
It's often benchmarked when people are talking about, hey, where do you want to get to? I mean, when I was in the US, they were like, hey, the Nordic model.
Yeah, that's true. It's a Nordic model. It's strong. So I looked upon myself as a feminist since I was in the teenagers. A lot of men do. Then reading books about feminism and being interested in gender. Yeah. And then actually at university I was studying. I went 1 year to do a broad study in US, in California. And then I saw a poster there saying, "Retreat for Men." I said, shit, retreat for men, what is that? But I was in California also to explore, because in California you can explore.
Oh yeah.
Everything is there.
Oh yeah.
I tell you. So I said, let me do that. Let me go. And that is the first time I ever started thinking about, because then they had these questions that you should discuss, sitting around the bonfire and discuss, who are you as a man? And then I started thinking, who am I as a man? Oh shit, I haven't really been thinking about that. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does it mean to be a man? I thought a lot about women. I knew a lot about women's sexuality, a lot about women's bodies, a lot about women's history and so on. Because this is what I learned, when you are living in Norway. And then suddenly I was thinking, God, I don't know a shit about myself. And that was an interesting moment. Then I started moving inwards and outwards in a way. Also to look about what is about masculinities, what is this about men in the world? Who are we?
It seems to me, this is just from looking at your work before meeting you, that you felt that more people needed to hear about the stuff that you were learning. Is it about getting the information out there, but you're also exploring different ways in which culture is defining masculinity? I'm just interested in the shift from academia to I don't know what you'd call this now, like academic activism. Yes,
Yeah.
What led to the shift? You mean you said frustration, but maybe you could go into it a little bit.
Of course, the frustration was one thing, but also, in a way, I've been an activist since I was 15, when I was first out there in the streets, actually. And I felt like writing and doing the academic stuff was one way of understanding, of building up an understanding of the world for myself, you know. So being there, doing my PhD, doing all the reading, was really empowering myself, and I felt really it was necessary. It was wonderful, and I recommend everybody to study. You know, study. Studying is good. Reading is the best thing. You know, it's true, because it's so much nice things to read that it just fill you up. You know, and then but when you have read a lot and you start understanding, you also want to start to talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, you want to get it out. Yeah. Because, you know, a lot of other people, they haven't read these thousands books. You know, I have, and they haven't. So you want to get it out, and that activist part of me also was increasingly building up inside me. So going up, having workshops, doing seminars, giving talks, it's giving, you know. It's very nice when both men and women are lining up afterwards and saying thank you. Yeah. You know, thank you for what you're saying, for what you're doing. Yeah. It's rewarding. It is, and it's a way of giving back, I think.
Yeah, I would imagine. I'm going to use the analogy of being a Christian. Like when I was deeply Christian, one of the things that frustrated me in being in the church was we had to focus on belief a lot. So we're always learning and learning, but you couldn't live it. Yeah. And it felt like water pooling up in a swamp. Like you need some release. That's true. But now in your social circles, have those changed since you left academia? Do you find that you're more and more talking to, I don't know what to say, the everyday average Joe? Because the feeling I've been getting ever since I started this podcast is people will start, they'll say, I have to read a few books before I sit with you. I don't want to feel dumb. And I always feel like that's a problem with me then. If I'm making you feel that way, it means I'm bombarding you with information rather than connecting with you. What's been your way to, I guess, connect with people who are like, okay, I understand this person hasn't been exposed to some of the things that I have. I probably have a few things that could be beneficial to them, but how do you get it across in a non-condescending manner? Yeah, because I don't think I've never been up there, you know. I never thought about that myself as a professor, you know, in that sense that had to show off. And I'm from a traditional working class family I was the only one of my father and mother's children that had the possibility to do what I've been doing, you know, to study and take a PhD and follow my career in that sense, you know. So I never really been looking upon myself as a like class this, you know. Or something, I've always wanted to communicate with my friends, with my classmates, with my boys, you know, with the guys. I've been playing football all my life, you know, and you play football, you know what it's about, you know. Yeah. You cannot be snobby and go out there and play football. You'll get tackled immediately. Yes. So I like I like communicating with people, and I never think that people approach me thinking that I'm something different or something above them, or you know. I think we very easily get equal, whoever it is, you know. I can sit down with the people that have a problem with abuse and sit and talk with them. Because that is also not because it's I want to listen here, my man, you know. But I'm learning from it. You're genuinely engaged. You're also learning something from the. You're okay. So humans are cool, actually. They can be, at least. They can be. Yeah, I think we can be more impressive than we realize, and we can also be more cruel than we understand. Absolutely, extremely cruel. And I remember my grandfather once saying that anything that you see a human being do, it means that's human. You know, we like to say, oh, that's inhuman, but but that's something. Like a beast may attack you, but it's not going to take that pleasure in your pain. Like there's it's a duality. I tell you, I've worked and written a lot about violence, both men's violence against women. But the last book I published was women's violence against men. That's interesting. What surprised you most in doing that study?
Two things. First, that the victim of violence has very much the same reactions. If it is a man or a woman, it doesn't matter in a way. That was the first thing I experienced.
Also, they're not like strict gendered
it's not as strictly gendered. It's the violence that is the problem here, because violence, I'm not talking about just one hit, I'm talking about violence which is a continuous type of violence. It's ongoing, which is there to control you, basically. Yeah. So it's a combination of physical violence, psychological violence, can be economical violence, material violence, different ways of taking control of the other person, of dominating. Yeah. And the same thing is happening with the men. They're withdrawing from friends. They're sort of losing control of themselves. They're feeling that they're getting weaker, that they don't have a sense of themselves. And it's the same with women, And it was really interesting to see that how violence works. Independent of gender.
Yeah. So I've always thought about that in terms of.
And for men, it was also interesting to see that they said, no, the physical violence is not that bad.
I was just about to say,
because they said they were hit by the women, they were pushed by the women and things, but I was never afraid of her because they were always stronger than her. But they said that what took me down, what destroyed me was the psychological violence.
Grind of it.
Where don't you get it up? You're a pussy. Can't you fix this? You're nothing. All this continuous way of talking to the guy like he's, and after a while he starts feeling that he is nothing.
That's so. Maybe I'll bring this now. The episode that we did on sex some time back got quite popular, but there were interesting responses from the ladies and interesting responses from the men. On the ladies' side, there was a frustration in terms of the question of, have you ever had a bad sexual experience or a bad intimate experience, and did you talk about it?
Yeah.
And for a lot of them, though, I felt, man, this guy had a micro penis, and I was just like, I can't get it, or he didn't perform as well. And at that point, there wasn't a lot of pushback, and I was surprised that, has no one ever told you that that's dehumanizing for the guy? Like, that's embarrassing for your partner, that you're going to point and laugh at them, and then
it's cruelty.
On the other side, it's really, but
it's
there's a sort of trend, and it's not everyone, but I'll be talking to a few ladies, and they'll say, but that's just how men are. Like, you guys will just, shrug it off. Yeah. So there's almost like this stereotype of the way they've experienced men that that's all that you are. There's no depth behind that. I'm like, maybe I'm wearing a mask of bravado, but I'm a human being. I'm flesh and blood. Yeah. And this moment, I don't think is bringing you any closer. You're actually making a gap much stronger. And I was at a health conference recently when they were talking about the rise in the use of erectile dysfunction pills, and also a lot of men visiting sex workers. But the sex workers were saying that most of these guys don't even want to have sex.
No.
Like, the regular customers are coming for intimacy and saying things like, hey, can I tell you about my day? And it's like, how is that not alarming for people in the room? Like, the guys are quietly going somewhere to find some kind of relief from the pain that they're feeling from a place that they should be getting some kind of comfort. So I don't know, what are you seeing in terms of?
I think we have to start with ourselves, with men themselves, because when men are playing out that stereotype to being in control, being tough, having that attitude. Of course, the girls, the women, they believe that you are
that's who you are.
This is who you are, basically, So we have to start opening up ourselves. We have to show our own vulnerability. If you don't do that, how can women respect us? How can they think that we are more than this beast or whatever coming out there, to be this tough guy? I'm in control here, but you're not in control because you can't get it up, because this is one thing you can never control. This is interesting thing with the penis. It's got
a mind of its own.
It has a mind of its own. You cannot control it, and it's a shocking thing for a lot of guys, and they don't know how to cope with it. And if you don't show that vulnerability and give it a pause and say that, okay, let's just lay down and have a nice time, kiss, and do something beautiful together.
Yeah,
you know?
it's not a tragedy.
Whatever, you know. And then suddenly it's getting up again, you know. That's what's happening.
Hey, we're back to money.
But it's. I think we have to start with ourselves.
Yeah.
That's the way. Yeah.
Yeah. Alan, you had something?
Yeah, I think in high school we had a guy who had a micro.
You had a guy who had a micro.
Yeah, but we only found out after a while. But the thing is, like, all his conversations were about how big of a penis he has.
Oh.
And then when he would go to the urinals, he would be like, "Oh, it's hard to get out." It's hard. So when you say it starts with ourselves, because we are the ones who put up all these standards as well, okay? And we put ourselves under pressure, and then like the world just hits us, and then we don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But I think like if you start having an honest conversation about it from an earlier age, by the time a woman laughs at you when you're in your 30s, you're like, okay, yeah, it's how I am. I can't do anything about it. Like either deal with it or.
Yeah.
You have a lot of other possibilities, you know. You have your fingers, you have your tongue, you have your whatever to play with. It's a lot of things you can do
Put my foot up.
to get a good sexual life.
Yeah. And
so, I tell you, women don't actually know how lucky they are.
do you know how lucky you are? We're talking to someone off camera. Yeah. Context.
How lucky they are, because they don't have a penis. You know, because I know, working in this field for so many years, it's such a struggle for men, and it starts early. You know, they start taking pills or whatever when they're in their 20s.
20s?
They shouldn't really need that, you know, but they're afraid. They're afraid that it will not get up. They're so
the
afraid
anxiety is already setting in at a very young
age. The anxiety is there
age.
1 hour, 2 days
not even
before.
a physical.
You know, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So they have to take a pill just to be sure, because the anxiety is there. So it's so much time, so much effort, so much energy going into thinking about your penis. You know, it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
The more you're thinking about it, the worse it is.
The more you think about it, it's like, no, I can't do it under pressure. Please.
Stop thinking about it. Stop thinking about it. You know.
The minute you say stop thinking about it, that's all you're thinking about. But
just enjoy. This
if I'm to bring it in, so we've talked about it from the sexual performance standpoint, but I think that the economy, the access to capital, the feelings that allow you in society to feel like you're powerful as a man, and more as societies are dipping and saying that I cannot be a man, I'm seeing there's a lot of a backlash of men hanging on to authoritarian figures, sort of grasping onto something that is so strong. Because if I'm part of this movement, that strength is going to come back to me. And I remember that there was something you wrote around, you were arguing that gender equality requires women's equal access to capital.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to connect that with, you said that there's a change not only in the economic circumstances, but also in the attitudes, the ways in which we keep things gendered. Could you maybe talk to me about those two phases? And then where do you think we ought to start, or we should do it in a parallel?
I think it's coming together in a way. You know, you cannot start with attitudes, and then when you change the attitudes, then you can change practice. You know, it has to be both. So practice is actually also changing the attitudes. But so we have in schooling, in teaching, we have to work on gender equality issues, talking about it, learning men that allowing, which is a bad word here, you know, but that women are actually taking part in the economical sphere, that they're taking part in the distribution of power, in the government, in the parliament, in decision making, doesn't mean that it lowers your amount of power. You know, it's not a cake. This is the most.
It's not a finite thing.
A lot of men think it's a cake. You know, and if the women comes here and take a part of that cake, it's less for me. You know, and in the end, it's nothing there for me. And of course, then they started getting afraid. But it's not a cake. It's a huge world. I mean, there are men and women there doing decisions together, sharing economy, sharing power, and it's actually what we see. All studies we have show that almost equal parts of men and women in a workplace. Men and women all sort of equal. Doesn't necessarily have to be 50-50, but it can be 30-70 or 40-60. Shows that the workplace is functioning better. There are less sick leaves, There are more happiness.
Okay.
People are just having a better time,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
in a workplace where you work together, both genders.
Because you have humanity in the place. You're not just
You
having
have-
like one
yeah.
kind of
You
experience.
don't have, as a man, you don't have to prove yourself all the time towards your guys, you know. You don't have to be in this fight all the time to show I'm stronger than you, I'm a little bit above you. You know, women are coming in there and equalizing it in a nice way for men too.
Yeah.
So
You had some experiences in Burundi that I thought
Yes.
were quite interesting.
very, very interesting.
Maybe we could talk about what you learned over there. I failed to pronounce the.
Abatanga.
Yes, that.
Yeah, what was it?
I'll send you the word.
Yeah.
Butcher it.
Put it online.
Yeah, I've never been to Burundi. I'm an East African. I've never been to Burundi. It's so close and yet so different. You could show me a picture now and say this is Burundi, and I'll say, okay, yeah, sure. And that's my own ignorance. But maybe we could talk about what you learned there and how, I guess, maybe the cultural climate there was affecting how men were responding and presenting themselves.
It's really, really interesting because this was a study I did both in Rwanda and Burundi, actually.
Okay.
Because you have different development organizations that are supporting women and children.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And then one smart person in, I think it was in CARE, you know, said that there are men out there too. You know, we are working now for years and years and years to support women and children. What about the men? So they hired me to go out and see what is the situation in the field when it comes to this support. And it was really, it was heartbreaking in a way, but also very learning because I met these guys. And this is the beauty of how you can work together, because this was in very poor rural communities where some of the men had gone up to the development organization saying that why can't I get some money too, you know, to develop my situation as a farmer. And in Burundi they decided to break the rules, actually, from their headquarters. They started to give some of the men money. And then they started also giving courses or teaching them how they could work together, you know. And these men, the Abatanga...
The guys who put the word here.
They put the money together, which meant that the family got double amount of money, and they were able to buy a cow. They started to milk the cow and sell the milk on the market. They were able to buy some more clothes to the children. They were able to buy some books for the children to study. You know, suddenly they become a family that was a unique family in the community. So people started looking up to them. Okay. And why? Yeah, just because the man in practice, he didn't actually have the attitude in a way, you know, but in practice, he practiced gender equality.
Yeah.
And this is the beauty of it, you know, because what did he see? What did he learn from that part? Cooperation means a better way of living. And this is true all over, actually. So it's just really, really nice to see that. So that was the beautiful part and what I learned from it, and how easy it can be to practice gender equality. And how easy it can be also to support gender equality. But at the same time, I had workshops out in the field. And afterwards, you know, after the workshops, we were talking a lot about women and, you know, women empowerment and these things. The young guys came to me and said, why do everybody hate us? That was when I started crying, you know. Why do they hate us? I said, no, why do you say that? You know, because they don't want to talk to us. You know, they don't want to have anything to do with us. They don't want to support us. We basically don't see that we have any future. It's difficult to find a job. You know, and that was really the sad part. And I tried to tell that to the development world, you know, to the development organizations, that there are guys out there that need your support. We cannot only support women and children. We have to support the men as well. Yeah. Especially the young men. Yeah. You know, because the young men they have some choices to make, you know. It's a nice gang out there with some weapons, you know.
I'll feel strong.
They give me a lot.
Yeah.
You know, if I go that way.
Yeah.
You know. And this is all over. This is in the inner cities. This is out there in the fields. This is the way the African lords recruits young guys to give them a gun and give them power.
Yeah.
So it's really, really important.
I mean, so I think that, for instance, like in Uganda, youth unemployment is at about 40%. With young men, it's actually closer to 50%. So those are young men between the ages of 16 and 25. Now that you have a lot of energy. I remember what it was like to be 16. You're looking for something. Now, it's almost like if you have a dog and you're always beating it.
Yeah.
And it bites you. At a certain point, I'll be like, yeah, what that dog did is terrible, but what we're recollecting is the circumstances that dog has been in to get it to the point where I don't think anyone ever wants to feel impotent. And so rather than feel this powerlessness and just sit there and take it, that energy goes somewhere. And finally, if you find some form in which you're going to feel powerful, I can feel powerful by creating, or I can feel powerful by destroying. And I think for me, that's the fear. And you said something there. Those gentlemen who are doing that, I don't think they were going, I'm doing praxis, hey.
No,
I'm doing, like, they're not learning all the theory. You don't have to go to a class. It's just my practice.
Yeah.
My everyday life is allowing me to live these principles.
Yeah.
And that's why I was sliding on the side of, I think we spend so much time talking about what we ought to do. And in a certain sense, I lean very leftist. And I find that in the leftist communities, there is almost this energy where we can't take it anywhere. We can't really do something with it. And so we start speaking.
Yeah.
And you start speaking nicely, but then after a while, and I think, Alan, maybe you've experienced this, you'll see guys who are leftists who are they're chiding. They're, guys, come on, why don't you do? And I don't think anyone's going to listen to them. And I had this young man one time saying that the one thing he admires about Donald Trump is he's an honest liar. I was like, what do you mean? It's like, he'll come out and just tell you, hey, the game is rigged. You know, like everything you think we're doing.
Yeah.
Then he'll go back to doing it. But at least he said, I'm not playing with you. And he's also speaking to the economic anxieties that people have and giving them a plan. And when this guy was talking, I was like, man, we don't have any swag. Like anyone who's talking about gender equality, or even talk about gender, it's not swagged out. It's not coming into a language that people understand. It is you got to go and do the work. I think that's what we hear a lot. Hey, do the reading. Hey, do this. So, in your opinion, how do we get out of lecturing a lot? How do people who are maybe watching this show and want to, talk to their younger brothers, find a way to bridge the gap without it seeming like a Lifetime movie, like, hey, I want to talk to you about being a man. Like, how do you start those engagements?
Yeah, that's I think it's a key question. It's easy to go out there and scream and march in the street and protesting in the traditional way. I think it's important. It's important to raise your voices and
there's a place for that.
Yeah, and scream out about the unfairness of the world and inequalities, and when the power is taking away your rights. It's important, but in the end we see that where do we end up? And there are a lot of frustrated men on the left. On the left, it is. They start drinking instead, and
you find ways to cope.
Yeah. So I think go out and do the work. It's better to find a cause, of course, find something to work with, which is much better way of also dealing with your masculinities. Because it's very frustrating for a man to scream for power year after year and feeling more and more powerless. That's an absolutely very frustrating situation for a man. So another way of feeling you're full of power is working in the field with the guys, in a much more closer, smaller environment. Do something for people. It's a lot of things that needs to be done.
Do something. There's always something to be done. I like that.
It is, and that's empowerment. That gives you. Then you go to bed in the evening and you feel good, which is a different thing than being out there screaming and feeling that
stewing in your frustration.
We don't reach out. We don't get anything.
I think
don't get any results.
It starts with you, right? It starts with you.
Yeah.
In your household, you do what your favorite Peterson says, like, make your bed. I
It's
think
true.
I have a group of friends who I think I met in 2017. When I met them, we're living different lives and different values and stuff. And my way of living, I'm very honest about myself, my shortcomings. I'll come and tell you, man, I have like 2,000 shillings on my bank. I'm not ashamed to say that. And then my friends changed a bit and started being like me, more honest, more vulnerable, more, I'm tired today, I don't think I'm doing my best, I don't think I'm doing that. And I think we formed that kind of group where we can be honest and talk about our feelings honestly. And then I added a new guy to the group recently, and then one of my friends actually went back to being, his ego came back a bit.
Did this guy trigger something in him? Or?
No, I think it's the fact that I'm comfortable with the three guys, I can open up. Now it's a new person. And
then we suddenly have to go back to, hey,
this guy knows me as I'm a top killer. So now he went back a bit to being there. But like, eventually it breaks. So I think it just starts with us. And like,
I remember as a kid.
It's better in a way to go. You can go out screaming in the street for 1 hour, and then you go home to your kids and spend the rest of the day with your kids. That's much better, you know?
Yeah, that's healthier.
Play with your son. Talk with your sons, you know, if you have sons. Daughter, of course, also. But sometimes I say very, very clearly that it's very important for the fathers to talk with their sons, to raise them into a more equal world, gender equal world, you know?
Yeah, you know, it's unique. I don't know, a lot of the men I've spoken to, it's like our fathers, and it goes back to what you're saying in terms of whenever we talk gender, people think women, people think LGBTQ.
Yeah.
They don't, it's like men have become the default, and you're saying like, we can't be neutral. Like saying man is neutral, almost as if, almost a lot of the things that were written from time immemorial, I only realized that all these philosophy books, all these things I've been reading, I've been collecting it from one perspective of society. Like this is a man who has been at the top and is, you know, like you read Plato and he's like, there's a place for everything. They are men of bronze, men of clay, and they are slaves. No one disputes this. I'm like, I think the slaves dispute it. It's just they don't have a chance to write anything. Yeah. And now all these voices are coming out, and so there's this fear that, like you said, of the pie being destroyed. But like with my father, we have a much closer experience now. But when we were growing up, he was paying a lot of attention to my sister. Like, she has to be protected. The world is dangerous. And like for me, just let him go out and play. And I don't remember, there were a few playful moments, and I didn't even have the language to say, hey, can I hang out with you? It would just be like hanging around him. So I don't know, as men, is it because we're afraid of that side of us? I also noticed that, I don't know if you've seen this online, it's a bit of there's this ick list. And on the list, it's like things that men do that make you feel cringy. And there'll be things like, why are you blowing on your food before you eat it? Like, and it's women sharing that thing. And what men do, you know, like men turn things into jokes to sort of defang them from the pain, but I know it hurts. So talk to me about what men need to understand about gender, because usually when we talk about gender, it's like, we're going to give women a fair shake. But our stereotypes, our ways of, you know, figuring out that we're not neutral, that we have a part to play in this.
No, but it starts, what you say, it starts from you're a boy. It starts from the time when you see that, why are everybody hugging my sister? Why are they, you know, fussing over her, giving her a lot of love like that? You know, why don't they do that for me? Why no one really taking care of me in the same way, hugging me and kissing me and holding me in the same way, you know? Why do they spend so much time on dressing her up and making her beautiful, you know? At the same time, they give a shit about me, basically, you know? You have your shorts on, you have your t-shirt, that's it, you know? You go out and play.
Yeah.
And we can see that when we do studies also in kindergartens. It's a discrimination of girls and boys. The people working there, they take much more care of the girls, you know, because they spend time with her, they're sitting on their laps and they have cozy times together. They don't have cozy times at the same time with the boys.
Really?
The boys are sort of, go out and play, you know. It's a football here, you know. Do something, be active.
That's what boys do.
Yeah, that's what they do, you know. So the boys very early see the gendered structure, which is in a way also that you have to save yourself. You have to find your own way.
Yeah.
And then you have a father, which is often telling you, hey, don't cry.
Yeah.
You know?
be a
this,
man.
be this, be that, which is be a man.
Yeah.
You know, and then slowly you learn that being a man means that don't show too much emotions, don't cry, but not only don't cry, don't be too happy or too loose or you know whatever.
Don't be silly.
You don't be silly because then you're you know. So the whole thing is a disciplining of boys, which are different from disciplining of girls, because their parents are afraid of girls. They're afraid that girls will be raped, basically, you know, that they will be taken, which is also
that the world will ruin them. There's a sort of it's also an overextension that way.
But the boys, they are being so much regulated and disciplined into a stereotype of a man that has to be in control, thinking about himself as strong, powerful, not showing vulnerability, not showing too much emotions, as I said. You know, these things, and it's a bad way for a man to go. I say that, you know, boys and girls, we all start with, let us say, this amount of emotions when you're born. The potential for a huge...
A baby boy and a baby girl are not any...
They're equal, you know, when they're born. They have all these possibilities. But the life of a man is like going like this.
Yeah.
You know, and then you have two emotions left.
Yeah. I was reading in...
anger and anger.
Yeah, like I think in Bell Hooks, she was talking about how she tried to have intimacy with her partner and then realized that I have to be strong. So I was comfortable comforting her.
Yeah.
Like, everything is going to be all right. But then when he was in pain and she would try to comfort him, he eventually was able to articulate that I feel like I'm being smothered. Like I want what you're doing, but deep inside of me, I feel ashamed. And the line that got me was, I didn't know I was ashamed of feeling weakness within myself. I could only accept love if I'm being accepted as a strong person. And it took them years just to even get past that, because he thought that realizing it was enough. And she was saying, but we have to practice it. Like you're going to feel uncomfortable and you keep doing it until that discomfort goes away. And this is the thing I think I've had to learn about healing. Like when you're healing, it's very painful. It's a very painful experience when you're going through it. And I know that men know this because that's what guys do when they decide to go to the gym. Like, you know, I'm going to feel this pain because I have a goal of where I'm getting to. But emotionally, it's another thing altogether.
It is.
Where are there any...
I think it's so much harder for men to go through that emotional training. Because they're so afraid of being demasculinized. They're so afraid of
You've touched on the thing that, if I want to use the right word. You said the penis as a bridge.
Yeah.
That's a great title. What did you mean by that? I was situating in terms of the biological versus the like emotional. A lot of men, you know, sex is the one place where the biological, the emotional, like all of our fears, anxieties, and passions come together in that space. But what did it mean for you to say like the penis is a bridge to us understanding, you know, what men could be or what?
Because I wanted to try out and started writing something about my body. What is a man's body? Because you can find a lot of books about female bodies. You don't find anything about men's bodies. What does it mean? How does it feel? What is the skin, meaning of the skin? So writing about the hard skin, you know, and the soft skin, because we also have soft skin and hard skin. We can train us up to be a total machine in a way, you know. But when we are opening up, you have to open up for touches and emotions that can come inside.
We connect on the soft parts.
And of course, I was playing with these words that I'm coming in you. You know, I'm penetrating you. I'm you know.
It's evocative language for
the language of being a man is penetrating, getting into the other one, and women are letting him in. You know. So I said, but so for a heterosexual man, for a homosexual man, of course you have the possibility to let another man come into you. But for a heterosexual man, how can I let a woman come into me? You know, what does it mean to have a woman coming into me? In the same way as we are always speaking that I got into her, you know, I penetrated her. I want to be penetrated in a way, myself, emotionally.
Yeah.
To have that feeling, you know, of being penetrated.
Get someone in.
You know, and that was one part. And then I started to look at the penis, because the penis is an interesting thing, you know. When it's erect, it's standing straight out there, you know. It's like the men.
Here I am.
Yeah, it's like the man standing and looking down, and it's looking. Yeah, you're there, you know. It's a sort of it's an alienation between us and the penis.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So that, but what is the penis actually when it is erect? In a way, it's erect because it is a gift to another person. You know, it's erect because I
It's
like
not
you.
just for you, yeah.
It's of course it can be just for me and I can play with it, but most of the time an erect penis is a sort of a gift to another person.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, I started thinking about it in a different way.
Okay.
Because and then what does it does? You know, it's stretching out towards you. You know, it wants to reach you.
Yeah.
It is nice. You know, it starts just looking upon it as a nice thing, that it wants to reach out. It wants to come to you. You know, it wants to bring a gift to you. You know, and then and then when you have a female and a male body coming closer to each other, you have a penis in between. So it's like, okay, this is the bridge. This is the bridge.
Oh, I see.
You know, this is the bridge between me and you. We have a penis in between us. You know, that's here. Let us share it. Let us have fun.
Using
Let
the
us have
language
fun.
of domination, like I'm
No.
gonna.
You know, I'm no, because that's what I was looking after. Something else than just penetrating and getting into you. You know, let's talk about it in a different way. Let's look about ourselves as male bodies in a different way. So I thought, yeah, this is nice. I'm stretching out towards you. You know, I'm reaching out. Hey, let's do this thing together. This is a bridge between us, you know,
Healthy,
so
man.
we can meet each other physically and psychologically. Because what you're doing when the penis is getting into the vagina and you are together is also that you're melting together into one being in a way. You know, this is the old Socrates way of being. You know, you are melting into one person. You are.
Yeah.
You are really. You know. So and. Then she has taken the bridge.
And then life, well, not always, but
and then life is good.
comes.
Then life is good.
And then you can create a new life. I've always found it beautiful that we have men and women have to find a way to come together for us to keep going, for like the species to keep going. But
yeah,
it's almost like there is a sacredness there and a taboo at the same time.
Which is very, very interesting.
Yeah.
The huge taboo that especially, I have to say, the religion has created around sexuality.
Yeah.
And since you are here in Uganda, talk about the, you know, in Europe, we are born with the body as a taboo for a long, long, long time. But if you go back before,
no, I mean,
you know, before the colonization of Africa, the body was not a taboo. The body was free. What did the Europeans do when they came to Africa? They started dressing up covering up the bodies. You know, that's the first thing they did before they started reading from the Bible. They started putting clothes on. Oh, we have to cover up these bodies. You know, these naked bodies. They're not nice. They're not good.
Yeah.
We are afraid of our bodies.
Yeah. It's weird. The religious aspect is, I think Saint Augustine was writing that Christianity ended up sensualizing the entire world. Because in Northern Africa, it's like, if someone's walking around topless, it's a scenario where you're not even thinking about them as a sexual object. No. But when you start covering it, it's almost like in your mind now, anytime I see flesh, it's time to engage in this way. And like in Uganda, like you're talking about, there's always this push by men to say women are dressing indecently. But even when you read the religious texts, like the texts themselves, they're saying it's better for you to remove your eye than to get tempted. So I'm at what point did we go from, hey, you're the one who's looking at her that way and feeling a certain way, and we said, no, you're the problem. Why are you making me feel this way? And I think that's why, like, women in this society, you're either a Madonna or you're a prostitute. Like, you're only existing in these two places. And so they're saying, if you're not this, you're that. What has been the response that you've seen from women who've also grown up in these gendered norms in receiving men who come to a point where they're saying, I'm coming to you, not in this, I'm the dominant male, I'm, strong and powerful? Because as much at least in my experience, there are people who've been attracted to me because they see me that way.
Yeah.
And then you show this other side, like, hey, can we just cuddle? And they're like, what? Like, she thought she wanted it, but she was also a little...
Yeah.
I've had a conversation where she's like, I didn't realize that I was seeking for you to be that strong person, because then I can rely on your strength. So to me, there's also the acceptance.
But the thing that the stereotypes of men and masculinity, it's not only that men have that in their head.
It's a social thing.
It's a social thing. Women also have that in their head. So often women also go around and think that, okay, I need a strong man. I need a strong man that can protect me.
Yeah.
I want a strong man that can protect me, you know? So they are as fucked up in a way.
We're all kind of fucked up, yeah.
As men are. But what we see also from the Nordic countries and from studies we do is that women appreciate men that are able to talk. Basically in Europe now, at least, which I know most about, women are the ones that are divorcing. And they are divorcing because they don't have a man they can talk with. You know, they want a man they can share life with. They can discuss things. You know, they can cuddle up.
Yeah. It's not the 1920s where I could just bring food home and say, I've done my job as a man, now be happy. No. I actually have to have a personality. I have to actually engage.
You actually have to be someone.
I have to be someone. I have to be a human being.
You have to be a human being. You have to be a fully human being. Shit, it's tough. It's tough, man.
Yeah.
But it's rewarding.
Okay. Alan,
so we see that really that women appreciate that.
And it's almost
they can
immediate.
relax. They can also relax.
Is there like a learning curve? Because I feel like the relationship dynamics we have, part of why I think rightward leaning ideologues are more powerful is because they can point to the past. They can point to something we all have in society. Like they can say, hey, no, that's what a man does. Look at all these examples. Yeah. And then if you're trying to say what you're talking about, there aren't many examples that you can point to. You almost have to say, you have to create it. You're like, we're still finding a way of what does this mean? The way culture and society has changed. Yeah. And we're still holding on to these institutions that we structured for a different world, for a different way of, what I'm trying to figure out is, how do you capture someone's attention when it's so easy for someone to then say, well, I'll go to the gym, I'll be tough, because from kindergarten, that's what I've been seeing. Now all of a sudden you're confronting me with, hey, maybe that stuff is harming you too.
It feels like a safe way, a safe path to go, you know?
Yeah, but
all the men around you do, but they're not happy with it, you know, that's the problem. Men are unhappy beings.
Is it getting better or is it getting worse from what you're seeing?
I don't think I can answer that question actually. We see that it's getting better in my countries, in the Nordic countries. We can see that men are gaining from gender equality. We've done a lot of studies on it, and we really see, but these are Nordic studies, so we can see that gender equality is actually making men more happy, for sure.
But it's men living in this society where it's a lot more accepting, because like the change is a little bit more
they can be
present.
themselves in a more total way.
Yeah.
You know, they can relax in a different way. They don't have to fight for being in control all the time. And we see that the men that are unhappy, and this is really interesting, that is the man that is not actually able to follow up the standard of a gender equal society, you know? That they want to stick to the sort of what they think is the safe masculine way of doing things, you know? But it's not safe anymore because there are no one there for you anymore, you know? And we see they are losing out. And I'm starting working with those now because my new book will be about men and loneliness.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Which is a very, very interesting topic.
It's a big epidemic. I mean,
it's a big epidemic around the world. See in Japan, millions of men. They don't even almost
just opting out. They're just like, I'm not leaving the home.
It's a huge area, and it doesn't exist one book about men and loneliness in the world.
Yeah, it's just people dunking on insults, I suppose, because those communities
they're there on the internet all the time, you know? Feeding each other with bad images about women and shit. You know?
Okay.
So it's a very important. But what we see is that gender equality makes men happier. That's absolutely clear. And I think that will hold for any man that is moving in that direction, that they feel like they can relax, they can be themselves, they can laugh, they can cry, or they actually want to, because men want to cry a lot also, you know? but they're actually allowed to cry also. That would be nice, you know. Don't hold it back.
Yeah.
You know.
The challenge is also those who have weaponized the masculinity. It's like I've used that to be ruthless at work and ruin stuff.
It's gotten me
it helps my
some
testosterone,
esteem
it
in
helps.
life.
Yeah. So then if you tell them now switch, we don't know who they're going to be like at work or in a relationship. It's because it's a new territory.
Yeah.
Sometimes something
It's a new
that's
territory.
familiar is easier.
You know, it's a dangerous place to walk. You know, I often say it's a small step for a man, but it's a huge step for mankind.
I like that.
You know,
I like that. Yeah.
to change masculinity is actually it is.
Okay, that's a task of our generation.
Yeah. That's our job, man.
Could you said your new book is coming out. Where can people find it? Would they?
No, it's not.
Oh, you're still working on it now.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not like being edited yet. So, of your works, where can we find some of the work that you've done, some of the documentaries?
The article on men and sexuality is free. It's out there.
Okay.
It's called the Phenomenology of Men's Orgasms, actually. So it's a good title. It's a good title. It's not that many articles.
I was about to say.
It's not that many articles out there with that title. So it's easy to find it.
Academia needs to take some notes, man. They need to write more titles like that.
It's my most read article.
I can imagine. Okay.
And it's for free. And then the book I wrote about violence against men is also for free. It's published by Palgrave Macmillan, but it's for free. So it's called Violence Against Men in Intimate Relationships. And there's also very interesting findings there. You know, we did interviews with men that have experienced violence. Actually, we interviewed men that have experienced violence from both a male partner and a female partner. We had some gay couples there also. And see that this is not about gender very much, you know, it's about violence and how violence is destroying you as a person.
Okay.
And violence is for sure the most destructive thing in a family.
Yeah.
It is.
And it can echo for generations, you know. You
goes
watch
on. It
violence
repeats itself,
and then
you know,
you start
it
repeating
repeats
those
itself.
patterns.
Yeah. It's very, very bad.
It's interesting that human beings can do things that they don't want to do. I mean, that's the first thing that got me into understanding the psychology of us and how I intend to do one thing and then I do something else and then I don't like it and then I feel like I'm wrestling with my flesh.
Yeah.
And probably that's where I think the church has, you know, said, oh, this flesh is the problem. If I could just leave it and hover up there. There's almost this desire within religion to escape this flesh prison that we're in.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's distorted, because you then have to learn to love the body that you're in, the body that you have. I mean, I am my body. This discussion that there is me and then there's my body. No,
no. You are your body.
Who I am, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, so I mean, I think for me, the things that I've enjoyed from reading your work, you know, after she told me about you and you were coming through, I'd say, hey, let me read up on some of this. And she was asking me whether I should, you're going to put here, that is who I'm talking about. You put her image here. I put her head like somewhere here. Yeah, it's refreshing because I think that's something I share.
It's a woman in the room.
It's a woman, yeah. It's not just a sausage fest. I'm trying to be serious here. Yeah, we had to have one here, so she remember like, hey. Yeah, but to me, it's just to say thank you for the work that you're doing. It's inspiring myself. I think I also have this responsibility now that more and more young men are saying something, and I didn't want to just, you know, brush it off and just say, yeah, let's sit, even if it feels uncomfortable. Let's learn to see how we can love ourselves, because by loving yourself, then you can love the world, and then you know, start to create a different energy. So
it's hard to love someone else if you're not loving yourself. It's a very easy saying, but it's true.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure being here with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Alan, last
words?
Thank you.
From you?
Same sentiments as well. Thank you for the work that you do. I think I'm doing a very good job with my two boys. That's not from a point of learning. It's from what I would think I would like for myself. So I think I also get a chance to read your work, because maybe if I learn, I'll be better, and make sure we raise a better generation of men.
We will, absolutely.
The phenomenology of the male orgasm out. Pa!
Yeah.